Jai Hind everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge etc. Memoir of my banking journey, Mr. V.H. Ramakrishnan, retired General Manager of Bank of India. Episode number 37, the chapter A Banking Journey Begins is continuing. The link of earlier episodes is available in the description. Banking journey begins. The ladies of Bank of India. Prior to the mass recruitment of officers in 1972, there were very few ladies in Bank of India, Chennai. Once again, you should remember Chennai was a very conservative city. There was no co-education. In 1966, when I joined the bank, there were only six ladies out of about 50 staff members. There were three were clerks. Two of them were Anglo-Indians. They would not mix with others, would do their job and walk away. One of them was very efficient. She later left for Korea. The third one was Owa Shanta, was the operator. She would talk with everyone freely and walk at a great speed here and there. We had to be careful of not bumping into her. Among the officers, there was very senior one called Emin Duraisani. She was in grade one and hailed from a very rich Mudaliar family. She would come into the office in a big car, would never mix with others. She would do her job, and the car would come sharp at 5:30, and she would walk away. She was not arrogant, but she was very quiet. I had written about Sita Verma earlier, who was the wife of collector of Chennai. She would not mix much with others. The last one was Nawaz Antony. She was a Parsi lady who married a Kerala Christian, a modern progressive type. She would freely move with all, crack jokes, and would pull others' legs. I think Duraisani resigned when she received transfer orders. Sita Verma also quit when her husband was transferred. Nawaz continued in the bank, was manager of Thousand Lights branch, and in the 90s she was in head office. Somehow she did not go beyond scale 3 level. She now lives in US with her children. A few years back I spoke to her when she had come down to Chennai. Same cheerful voice. I think in 1967 or so, the one Rajeshwari Sivaraman joined as a direct recruit. She was the first of the new recruits who used to talk freely with everyone. Her husband was with IBM. I remember her because she used to talk in typical Brahmanical Tamil. Quite smart, but she also resigned after a couple of years. Later on, C. Savitri, who joined as a PRO or a receptionist at Mount Road, came to regional office when we were in Iravallu Chetty Street. She was the younger sister of the famous Bombay sisters and was also a talented singer. She later married a brilliant officer, Ramanand Rao, and both moved to US. She is teaching music at the Ganesha Temple, New York. I met her in 2001 during my visit to the US. Later we moved to Eravallu Chetty Street, and due to expansion, more and more ladies joined. But about the 1972 recruits, you have to wait for some more time. Sixth sense. Mr. Shukla believed more in the entrepreneur than the enterprise. He used to gather a lot of market information about the borrowers and their families. He did not go by numbers and ratios alone. After his retirement, he was an advisor to Jai Bharat Leasing Limited at Mumbai. I was in BOI Finance and I called on him one day. When I was sitting with him, he got a call from General Manager of Bank of India inquiring about a businessman immediately. Mr. Shukla gave full information about the person and his commitments. I was amazed. Once, for a big ticket advance, the founder director was not willing to guarantee. Mr. Shukla called him on the phone and told him laughingly when I passed a check, I did not see the name of the company, I see your face on the check, so you must sign the guarantee letter. The borrower agreed immediately. Once we submitted a very good proposal we got from a branch for his sanction. It was vetted by a technical officer, Mr. Sadasivam also. We were quite confident that it would get his approval without any difficulty. But he called me. He told me that on the face of it, the proposal was quite okay, but he had a feeling something was not quite all right. He wanted me to make more inquiries about the proponent independently. I did that and I found that he was a defaulter with another bank. I would call this as the sixth sense of Mr. Shukla. Success story 1. Narayan. Name change. He was in his 40s. He met me and Sadasivam. He said because of his experience in chemical industry, he had developed a chemical which would prevent corrosion in the plants. In an anti-corrosion chemical. He said he had some money, rupees 10,000 or so. He wanted a loan of rupees 2,000 and a capital limit of rupees 1,500. This was in 1970 or 71. We were surprised that his requirement was quite low. He also informed us that he had tried with a couple of banks, but nobody was willing to finance him. Sadasivam was quite curious. He said he would go for an inspection. In fact, there was no factory. Narayan was doing his experiment at the backyard of his house. He explained the process to Sadasivam. Sadasivam briefed me and said that we should finance him. Accordingly, we sanctioned the limits. Within a year, the limits were increased. Narayan shifted to a separate building. It was a big success. Made steady progress. By 1975, he was very well off, enjoying facilities and life with a healthy turnover. He was aware that I was a Freemason. He also wanted to join Freemasonry, but I could not take him in my lodge since it was restricted to chartered accountants. Through a common member, I got him admission in another lodge. He took Freemasonry seriously, and I got excellent reports about him. Later on, his son was also initiated into that lodge. Just before I left for Nairobi, he presented me with a nice briefcase. Of course, there was no cash inside. It was an excellent gift. I had used it regularly. It is still with me. Once, when I came on leave from Nairobi, he called me. We met at the zonal office. He explained me about the company's progress. He then unwrapped a small packet and showed me. It was the original sanction letter for a loan of rupees 2000 and cash credit of rupees 1500 duly framed. He said it is hanging on the wall in his office to remind him the support rendered by the bank and his humble beginnings. His son also accompanied him. I was really moved. Again, when I came from Lagos, he met me at the Cathedral Road branch. This time, his story was different. His account was with another branch. They could not understand his needs and did not sanction the facilities he wanted. Another nationalized bank took over the advance, granting three times the facilities enjoyed by him with the Bank of India. Narayan did not forget me. One day, sometime in 2007 or so, I got a call from him inviting me for his Shatabhishekam, 80th birthday. Though I could not attend, I called on him a few days before and gave him a token gift and took his blessings. He told me that his turnover was about rupees 10 crores. His son had taken full charge. He also explained me about the progress made by the company. While I was very happy with their success, I was sad that our bank was no longer associated with the company. An exceptional politician. All the readers would have heard about the late K. Kamaraj, who was the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. He was an all India leader with high reputation. His honesty and simplicity is very well known. We had an interesting experience with him. Sometime in early 70s, AKR was contacted by a friend who was very close to Mr. Kamraj. He invited AKR for a meeting with Mr. Kamraj. During the meeting, Mr. Kamraj asked AKR whether the bank was extending loans for small traders. AKR replied in the affirmative. Then Kamaraj introduced the young man as his sister's son. He said his nephew was doing wholesale trade in pulses in Kotwal Bazaar, a well-known wholesale market in Chennai. He said his nephew needed a loan of rupees 20,000 for his business and has been pestering him. Akia assured him that the bank would take care of his requirements. Then Kamaraj told his nephew that he should repay promptly. After coming back to the bank, AKR called me and briefed me. The nephew met me and we were happy with his business performance and sanctioned a facility of rupees 20,000. 3 weeks passed, the nephew came back and placed a cash of rupees 20,000 on my table and said, "Sir, please close my facility." I was surprised. I asked him why he was repaying so soon. He told me, "Sir, I have no grievance against the bank. It is my uncle. Every day for the last 10 days, he is phoning me and asking whether I have repaid the loan. He says since he recommended my loan, his reputation is at stake. I cannot bear this torture." He insisted and cleared the dues and walked away. What an exceptional politician. Will we ever see such a simple and honest politician again? Tailpiece while giving a lecture, a senior chartered accountant posed a question, what is the difference between an engineer and a chartered accountant? Then he gave the answer, engineers can forge and fabricate, whereas chartered accountants are not allowed. Mr. D. N. Shukla's brilliant advice to a young officer. I'm quoting below the response of my dear colleague S. Sampath about Mr. Shukla. I feel this is something which every officer, even current generation, should read. Quote, while I was on probation in 1968 as a supernumerary officer, I had an occasion to meet D. N. Shukla, then regional manager of Southern Region at Trichy. He was put up in Ashby Hotel, which was the only best hotel in Trichy. He took special interest and called me to his room and gave few advices which, if followed, would keep me in a good stead in my long 4 decades career. First, never hesitate to take up any work in our bank, especially advances. Second, advanced customers would try to exploit your weakness and never express your likes and dislikes. Third, always weigh mentally plus and minus points of the advanced proposal and draw your own conclusion. Fourth, accounting statements and ratios are very important for judging the proposal and they only reflect a part of the story. Go by your intuition and never suppress it. Fifth, you should be a keen observer and mentally take note of everything said. Allow the customer full freedom of express about himself and watch his eyes closely. When he says a lie, his eyes would be hesitant to see you. Sixth, always have a sense of proportion. Do not act in both extremes. Do not praise or scold with adjectives. According to him, banker has to be careful in using adjectives. Seventh, finally, one should take part in dinners and other social activities invited by him. However, when he comes for TOD or over limits on the next morning, you should not entertain such requests. These wise advices helped me in my career. Unquote. Sampath's response brings out the following points. The advice that is something they do not teach at Harvard. Second, it shows the care and interest shown by a very senior executive to a newly joined officer, putting him on the right path and encouraging him to shoulder responsibilities. Third, the fact that Mr. Sampath, who rose up to the position of a general manager, remembers the full advice after almost 5 decades, shows the fine impression it had on him. Why I consider Mr. Shukla as an executive par excellence and also my first role model. I'd already mentioned about his quick decision taking capacity, keeping a clean table which appealed to me most. I'd seen his table when he was a GM and ET and no pending papers on his table. Judgment of borrowers, socializing even with the staff, great memory power, and always being pleasant. These qualities made him a lovable executive. Mr. Shukla hailed from a middle class family. He told me that he did not have the money to buy a tie when he appeared for the interview in the bank before a Scottish general manager. I have to mention a couple of more qualities about him. He was very bold. There was a borrower in one of the big branches of Andhra Pradesh who was in mining business. He had a lot of political connections in Delhi. Whenever he requested for some temporary or additional facility, and if we did not sanction it, he would make a representation to the banking division. A letter would come from the banking division asking us to look into his grievances. We used to accommodate him to the best extent possible. Finally, he made some unreasonable demand from the bank. The banking division wrote to us again, stressing that the bank should bear in mind that the borrower was a small scale industrialist and should process his request accordingly. Mr. Shukla was quite annoyed. He wrote a reply on the following lines. The bank has been quite sympathetic and had helped the borrower to the maximum extent. However, if you still feel that he should be supported further, I suggest that government should consider giving him that grant directly. He dictated the letter in my presence and also signed the letter laughingly. That was the end of letters or calls from the banking division. Mr. Shukla rose to the position of an executive director. Very few months after Mr. Tiwari became the chairman, both Mr. Shukla and Mr. R.P. Vaidyas resigned. I was on my way to Lagos. I called on Mr. Shukla and asked him whether it was true that he had resigned. As usual, he laughed heartily and said, "Look, I'm not a bonded labor, so I'm quitting." But behind that laughter, I felt he was hiding his sadness. The rumor that he was not happy with political interference, as well as Mr. Tiwari's way of functioning. I used to meet him even after his retirement. He would always hug me with a lot of affection. Mr. Shukla loved drinking, but he would never lose control of himself. Once, when I was coming to India from Nairobi, my colleague suggested that I should carry a whiskey bottle for him. So I met him and gave him the bottle. He was very unhappy. He told me, "Ramakrishnan, you should not have done this." I apologized to him and assured him that I would not repeat this. In my entire association with him, that was the only time I found him unhappy with me. I have lost touch with him and I feel guilty. The three stars, which went in different directions. During 1968 to 1970, a number of clerks were recruited. I want to write about three of them, though none of them worked in my department. Somehow found them quite different from others. All the three were ambitious and were keen to become officers. For 1968, it used to take quite a few years to get promoted as an officer, as the ratio of direct recruits was more than the promotion from clerical career. Besides, the expansion started only after nationalization. The three clerks were N.R. Srinivasan, R. Satyamurthy, and D. Krishnamurthy. One thing common for all the three was that they all got promoted within 3 years, which was a record in those days. N.R. Srinivasan NRS was a very quiet person, humble and simple. He would show high respect to the officers. If I went near him to ask something, he would automatically get up and answer in a very polite tone. He was obedience personified. I heard reports that he was very efficient. According to me, he was an introvert. Our accountant, Mr. AKR, was lookout on a bridegroom for his daughter. He chose N.R. Srinivasan. With his quick promotion, he had a few assignments and finally he landed in Tokyo when I was in Nairobi. In fact, readers may recall when that it was N.R. Srinivasan who wrote to me that I was being posted as executive director of Allied Bank of Nigeria. Mr. Reggie, the GM, only told me that I was going to Lagos. I never knew in which capacity I was being sent. After his Tokyo assignment, NRS resigned from the bank and joined a company run by a person of Indian origin there. Till today, it is a mystery to me how NRS, a quiet personality, continued successfully in a private sector in a high position. His boss told me that his honesty and sincerity carried him through. I met him in Tokyo in 2000 when I visited Tokyo branch along with the then CMD KV Krishnamurthy. He attended the cocktails hosted by the bank. It was a great pleasure to meet him after 25 years. I think he still lives in Tokyo, so this star moved eastwards. Satyamurthy was the son of one Mr. Raghavan who owned a printing press called Good Art Printers. Raghavan did all the printing work for our bank in Chennai. A simple and friendly person, if NRS was an introvert, Satyamurthy was the extrovert. Quite smart and full of enthusiasm. If you tell him to go to the cash department, before you finish the sentence, he would have reached the cash department. Again, excellent reports about him. He also got his promotion within 3 years and then moved to Calcutta. Unfortunately, he died at a very young age and really became a star. D. Krishnamurthy, popularly known as DK, joined in 1968, the last clerk to join before the nationalization. He said he was also the last one belonging to the pre nationalization era to retire. DK was very obedient at the same time, very smart. It is difficult to say that he was an introvert or an extrovert, perhaps a mixture of both. He had a lot of tact, a person gifted with subtle humor. Even if you are sad, he would make you smile within 10 minutes. DK also got a quick promotion as an officer and was fortunate to work in Thousand Lights branch under one of the smart bankers of the time, Mr. Patu Srinivasan. The turning point in DK's career came in a peculiar way. We had opened a branch in Velarur, a suburb of Coimbatore. The first branch manager could not make much of an impact. In fact, when I visited Coimbatore for agricultural finance workshop, the manager told me that the branch should be closed as there was no scope for any business. Later on, he wrote a letter to the regional manager, Mr. Vedya, in 72 or 73, recommending closure of the branch. Mr. Vedya called DK and told him to go and report as manager for Velalur branch the next day. DK was taken aback. Mr. Vedder also told him about the recommendation of the incumbent and wanted DK to prove that it was wrong. DK accepted the challenge. Within 1 year, he doubled the business. During his second year, he again doubled the business. In fact, after DK left, Babu Venkatachalam took over and he again doubled the business. It proved one point: the success of a branch depends upon the leader. When I was the garden general manager of the South Zone, I used to quote this as a case study. DK was rewarded with a London posting. He was in London when I was in Nairobi. Later on, he did a wonderful job in Singapore at a critical period. Under that tough taskmaster, Mr. Yagnik, who worked 18 hours a day, Yagnik and DK were both shifted from Hong Kong to Singapore. DK's best period was in charge of CMD Secretariat during the tenure of Mr. Rajagopal. No one else could have managed to work with a smile under the mercurial CMD, so this star remained as a star of Bank of India and retired as GM. Tailpiece: when Mr. T. D. Kansara retired, everyone expected Mr. R. S. Balsekar, General Manager, to become the chairman, but the government decided to appoint J. N. Saxena from SBI as the chairman. However, Mr. Balsekar was offered the post of a chairman of another bank. It is reported that he declined the offer and told the government, "In this life, I have decided to have only one wife and one employer." It is a different story that Mr. Balsekar later on became a spiritual guru with many disciples, including foreigners. Cinema shooting and ceramic unit. One day, AKR called me and introduced me to one Ramanan named Change. He was the son-in-law of a well-known and reputed film producer. He was setting up a small ceramic tiles unit. After he left, AKR told me that I should take the guarantee of Ramanan's wife also. He said Ramanan's father-in-law would never let down his daughter, and so our advance would be quite safe. Ramanan was very simple and nice person, never threw any weights. We vetted the project and found it viable. Funds were released and we did the post-sanction inspection after the commencement of production. We were quite happy. Later on, we came to know that Ramanan was also a film producer. He was making a Hindi movie. He rang me up one day and invited me to watch the shooting at a local studio. Being a film buff, I accepted the invitation gladly and watched the shooting. It was a scene from in which Ashok Kumar was acting. Unfortunately, the movie bombed at the box office. Within a few days, the SSI unit also failed to pay the dues. Ramanan did not respond to our calls. No mobile numbers in those days. Again, one morning, AKR called me and showed me the second page of the Hindu. The second page of the paper used to contain what is called the classified advertisements. The headings would appear in an alphabetical order. Under the heading Insolvency, there was a line advertisement saying Ramanan and his wife had filed an insolvency petition. We were simply shocked. It was a lesson I learned. One should not over depend on the same name and reputation of even the blood relation. In any case, we filed a claim under the guarantee scheme and covered 75% of the amount lent within a fortnight. Bank did not lose much. My relationship with Mr. AKR. I had referred the name of AKR quite a few times in this story. So this is the time to say a few words about him. AKR was matriculated. The story goes that Mr. P.S. Narayan, an officer, got AKR the job of a typist at the bank. AKR, being clever, smart, and capable, became an officer soon and got some double increments and overtook Mr. P.S. Narayanan. In fact, in 1966, when I joined the bank, Mr. Narayanan was reporting to AKR. AKR was in Madras branch as accountant in 1966 and later became the manager of Madras branch. In 1972 or 73, he left for Bihar as its area manager. So I reported to him for almost 6 to 7 years. Still, I never felt close to him. He was cordial but had a stern, authoritative look. The ease with which I could talk to Kopikar or Shukla, I could never do with AKR. Never sat with him for a chit chat. It was purely an official relationship. And only one unpleasant experience with him in 1972, which I would narrate at the appropriate time as it also involved R.P. Vaidya. AKR was a master in practical thinking. He was also an executive who would take bold decisions. No paper would be kept pending with him. He had developed good contacts in Chennai. I came to know later that he was also a Freemason. I remember an incident. We had financed a farmer from AP who had a mango garden. I'd gone for inspection and came back with half a dozen huge Banganapalli mangoes. He was in fact introduced to the bank by somebody known to AKR. But AKR never forced us to sanction a limit to him. We found the proposal viable and financed him. Whenever he came to the bank, he would sit before AKR for some time. Once we had put up a proposal for additional limit. But when it was placed before the sub-manager, Mr. Sanghani, he seems to have a remark to an officer sitting before him that it was the proposal for a friend of AKR. This comment reached AKR's ears. He was furious. He called me and told me that Mr. Sanghani had made some sarcastic comments. He literally dragged me to the cabin of Mr. Sanghani and told him you can ask Mr. Ramakrishnan as to whether I told him to consider this proposal favorably. Before I could respond, Sanghani became very nervous and apologized profusely. It was true that AKR never told me anything about the customer. I always had a feeling that AKR did not have a high opinion about me. One day, Mr. Ranganathan was talking to me. At that time, AKR had become the manager, and I think Ranganathan was the accountant. Suddenly, Ranganathan asked me, "Do you know who was given highest rating by AKR?" I told him it should be Ramanand or Ramanand Rao of Advanced Department. He said no. I then mentioned the names of couple of officers. Again, my guesses were wrong. Then Ranganathan told me that it was I who got the highest rating. I just could not believe it. That proved a point that it is sometimes difficult to judge a person. The vision of an entrepreneur. I had mentioned about a small scale industrialist, Matthew Concheria, in an earlier chapter. Skipping breakfast meeting and drive in a restaurant on a Sunday. He had a SSI unit well established in Ambattur industrial estate near Chennai. He had planned to set up a plant in Bangalore for manufacture of malt extract. Malt extract is the raw material for chocolate industry. Barley is the major raw material for malt extract. Our technical officer Sadasivam inspected the plant and made a statement. Malt extraction is more than an art than science. barley had to be procured from the north. Finished goods had to be sent to Mumbai. I also visited the plant. Mr. Concheria faced a peculiar problem in the first year of production. He had good orders. He started buying barley as and when needed. The crop was poor, the prices went up, but the finished goods were sold at an agreed price. He could not get the price revised. Having learned a bitter lesson, he bought the barley in bulk during the second year. Now the crops were good and the prices fell down. So here again he had a hit. But what came to his rescue was a different thing. He had bought a few acres on the outskirts of Bangalore. He had them converted into industrial land. With his contacts in Bank of India, he convinced us to open a branch in his land. He also persuaded the post office to open an office. That is how Bank of India opened Virgo Nagar branch. There was no bank in the near vicinity. Everyone had to come to Bank of India. Mr. Concheria was able to sell plots to various industries at a good price. Gradually, it became an industrial estate. He also sold a piece of land to Bank of India where the bank built its own building. I understand the value of property had increased multifold. The branch is classified as a rural branch and is headed by a chief manager. Mr. Concheria faced the problems with a smile. He said it was a good learning experience for him. I appreciate his vision in building an industrial estate. I lost touch with him in 1979 after 1979. I learned recently that he passed away 2 years CBD at head office. We had very good officers at head office CBD. The chief technical officer was one A.R. Patharkar. He was very knowledgeable person. He visited Chennai to inspect one unit. When I visited Mumbai once, he insisted that I should have breakfast at his house in Mumbai. I do not know whether we still have such personal touch between officers. However, he quit the bank after a few years. Tailpiece. I am quoting below the experience of Mr. D. Krishnamurthy, retired GM, which he had narrated while responding to the last chapter. After my posting at Velalur as manager, I bought a car. Price of the car was rupees 2,800. This was only to draw the car allowance for rupees 200. I rarely used it. Battery used to run down. One day I brought the car to the bank and parked it. Later I found a lot of withdrawal deposits from the Thevar community. Finally, the head of the community also came to withdraw. Santana Thevar, an old man wearing a dhoti, only wearing a dhoti. I went and asked him why there were such withdrawals. I was shocked to hear his answer. He said, Tambi, I found you are very extravagant. I deposited 15,000 yesterday and today you have bought this car. I also find that you are spending a lot of money by painting and buying furniture and building a toilet. The branch do not have one. I immediately explained that the bank is a government bank and took him in my car to Coimbatore regional office. The multi-story building was owned by the bank on Opanagarra ST. I took him to the arms cabin and he offered him coffee, Mysore Park mixture, and showed him the photo of a Recho building, etc. They were understood for the first time that this was a government bank. You can guess that we could not manage the rush for business in the branch as no one had earlier told the village that this was a government bank. Of course, I never brought the car to the bank and used a bicycle or walk. The chapter A Banking Journey Begins is continuing. Thank you very much for your patience. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel.